Writing a novel is like going to space. Bear with me on this one. When a rocket launches, everything is noise and fire and energy. The whole structure of the entire thing is shaking. You're burning through more fuel in the first few moments than you will for the rest of the journey. It's violent, it's exhilarating, and everything's happening at once. So I'm told. Haven't actually been to space myself yet. I've been busy. But anyway, once you clear the atmosphere, then everything goes quiet. Then you're in open space. The rocket's still moving, but it doesn't feel like it anymore, or at least not as much. Everything feels like time is slowing down. There's no more shaking, no more roar of the engines, just the hum of the instruments and the stars outside the window, and the long, complicated task ahead of getting wherever you're going. That is the middle part of a novel. Without the energy and the excitement of the launch phase, or the precision and anticipation of the landing phase, which is the end, which it never seems to get any closer, by the way, you're left feeling kind of weightless, floating there, wondering if you might have made a terrible mistake. Then, of course, with nothing underneath you, nothing above you, nothing to either side, here comes the doubt. You start to wonder if the story was ever as good as you thought. Maybe you've been wrong about it this entire time. Maybe the reason it feels flat and too quiet and too uneventful now is because it is flat, because it was always flat, and you just couldn't see it at the start because of, the fire and the velocity. Or maybe that earlier stuff was real, but you're actually only good at beginnings. Maybe that's as much as you'll ever do, writing exciting openings that go nowhere because you don't actually have the skill to carry a story all the way through. Then, right on cue, of course, a new idea appears, shiny and exciting and full of potential, an upgraded model of rocket compared to this tin can that you're rattling around in, and the temptation to abandon ship and start again, to feel that launch energy one more time, it's massive. Sometimes it gets you. I know this because it's happened to me. I've been there, recently in fact. At the moment, I'm editing the first draft of my latest novel, and it's going well. I actually reached the landing phase on this one, and I got there, but the one before this is still stranded in space. It's still up there, or down there, or whatever, waiting to be manually steered home. I know, I did say the space analogy would be really heavy-handed. Allow me to make it worse for a moment. That story that I've stranded in space is actually a space story too. That's how I kind of got here. I loved that project when I started it. The idea felt alive, I had ideas for characters, and I was excited to work on it and build it out and find out what it could be. But as it went on and got more complicated, I started to worry about my ability to even write it. I've written 8 novels, I know I can finish them. I'm not an amazing writer, but I know I could get it done, but still I worried about that. There were all these buttons and dials and meters and systems, and every time I looked out the ship window, the end, the landing point, it seemed really, really far off, so the creativity wore off a bit. I started struggling with it in a way I hadn't at the beginning, and eventually I just put it aside. The urge to abandon ship, it got me. But then, not long after, and safe in the shiny new upgraded model of my new idea, my new ship, and on my way to finishing that one in fact, I looked out of the cabin window and saw a glint out there in the emptiness of space. Just a spark that caught my interest for a moment, and it was the sun catching that stalled ship that I'd left stranded way out there, and I started thinking about that story again. And when I let myself just think about it without the pressure of having to write it, all that excitement and all those possibilities came back. I remembered exactly what I'd loved about it, and I wanted to keep going with it, which was a feeling that I didn't think I was going to get back. But the story hadn't changed. The idea was exactly as good as it had ever been before, exactly where I left it. What had changed was my headspace. No pun intended. The weight that I'd been carrying into every writing session on that old project, and all of those expectations I had for it, those had just worn off a little bit. The problem was never the space story itself. That ship flew just fine. The problem was what I'd started to believe about it. So now I've got it marked on my GPS or my navigation system. It's still way out there in space waiting for me. It's my next project once this current book is completely done, and I'm looking forward to getting back to it. So what actually happens in the middle? Why does it make us want to give up? If it's not about the idea itself or the story, then, as I discovered, it must be about us. I think our role changes. At launch, we're a discoverer, a pilot. We're finding the story, feeling it out, following our instincts and our excitement. The energy was doing a lot of the work, carrying us forward when the craft alone, no pun intended, when the craft of writing alone might not have been enough. In orbit, we become something different, more of a navigator. We're not discovering the story necessarily anymore, we're maintaining it, checking our instruments, making sure the trajectory's right, looking ahead for asteroids, I guess. And that's less exciting. There's no question about that. There isn't as much rushing past the windows. The cabin doesn't shake anymore. The landing phase still feels an awful long way off. But does that mean that the launch was pointless? Does the quiet of empty space invalidate the fire of the launch? Does the fact that this middle section is harder mean that the whole mission is a bust? No, of course not. It doesn't make any sense to suggest that. It just means the most fuel-hungry part of the journey is behind us, and now the work's going to be a bit different, a bit quieter, more sustained, less dramatic, but we're still moving. And here's what I've come to believe personally, having written enough books, I think, to have been through this more than once. And as I said, I'm not immune to it happening again. I'm human, we all are. Creativity is not linear. My point is, the writers who finish novels don't get there because they can somehow maintain that launch energy the entire way through and feel so positive and energized about it the whole time. You'll have to tell me if your experience is different, of course, but for me, that doesn't exist. At least I don't think. In my opinion, the writers who finish their stories are the ones who understand that that energy was mainly for the launch, and that this next phase, this open space phase, has its own rhythm. It's a bit slower, a bit quieter, but no less purposeful. We go from discovering the story to maintaining it, and the landing stage, after a while, starts to come into view. And then come all the worries about re-entry and trajectory, and that's another problem for another day. But if you're in the middle stage now and you're weightless in your ship, you're looking at the emergency evacuation procedure, hold fast. Here's a few suggestions, briefly, in case they can help. Don't make permanent decisions because of temporary feelings. The urge to abandon the story and start something new is at its strongest exactly when you're deepest into the middle, or at least it always has been for me. And that new shiny idea or the new model of ship that's tempting you, remember that that'll feel like this too after a while, unless you push through and finish this story that you're on, which will up your skill and experience and help you become a higher ranked pilot or astronaut, making you better able to fly that next story. The analogy is all over the place here, but what I mean is every story is going to feel like the middle is tough, but less so if you push through it in the story that you're writing, get to the end, have all that experience under your belt, then you can take on the new story and feel better about it. Another thing that can help is to remind yourself why you started. Go back and read your earliest notes about this story. The thing that excited you at the beginning is still in there, even if it doesn't feel as much like it. Sometimes you just need to see it again. You were sure about it, so sure about it that you decided to write a novel and you committed to a 90,000 word project. That was for a reason, so trust yourself. Something else I think you can help when you're just making no progress at all is to lower the stakes of the writing session a bit. At launch, I'm going back to it. At launch, every page feels really significant, but in free flight or in open space, give yourself permission for sessions that are just maintenance. Show up, move something forward, close the laptop. That's enough. It doesn't have to feel absolutely electric to count. My last video is all about that, minus the space stuff, so watch that one if you missed it. Finally, trust the trajectory. You're still moving faster than you think. That landing phase is out there, its gravitational pull is reeling you in and you're heading towards it, even on the days when it doesn't really feel that way. Keep going, because tough moments in the middle don't erase a good story idea. The story you started is still worth finishing. The difficulty you're feeling right now is not a verdict on the quality of what you're writing. It's just open space. It's just the quiet part of the journey. If you need structure and resources and support and other writers to talk to about this stuff because you think you might be going a little bit mad, The First Draft Writers Club opens on August the 1st. It's a community I've built for writers of all experience levels. There's a 30-day course to get you started, then I've got weekly live streams coming up, interactive resources, and a growing community that understands what the middle of a novel really feels like. There's a link below and a QR code on screen. I'd love to see you there. Anyone who joins that first month before the 1st of September will get a founder's price that will never go up as long as you're a member. And I can guarantee that there are currently no space-based puns involved in the community at all. It's another bonus. Thanks so much for watching. Happy writing.